Pete George, and we are live on Game Changers with Vicki Abelson. Our guest tonight is Robert Wuhl. Woo!
But I can't even call you Robert Wuhl because everybody on my wall is Newbomb Turk. Newbomb Turk.
First movie I ever did.
Okay, so how do you get an iconic? How does your first movie end up being, first of all, starring role, iconic? Everybody in the world was discovered in that movie. Tony Danza, Michelle Pfeiffer, my friend Mike Binder's in that movie. How does that happen?
Somebody else too is in the movie.
Who else?
Fran Drescher's in the movie.
Fran Drescher, yeah.
Fran Drescher, Stuart Pankin. They had a big cast.
Yeah.
Really good bunch of T.K. Carter. I was just came out here. I was a comic, and they were casting for this movie that was going to be a cross between American Graffiti and Animal House. That was the intent.
Okay.
And they had me come in, and they watched me on stage. I was doing my act, and then I saw some. To this day, I've never seen a script for this movie. To this day, I mean,
really?
Really. The script was not.
What song do you sing in that movie?
Volare.
Volare.
Right. And and it taught me a great lesson about Hollywood. I took with me always that. The first, like I said, to this day, I've never seen the script, but so I get the part.
So wait, before you get the part, what's your audition?
Just playing this leader of a Hollywood of a club in kids club in North Hollywood, circa early '60s.
So wait, so it's 1980-ish?
No, it's about me-ish. No, it's earlier than that. It's Vietnam War. It's
No. When you shot?
1979.
1979. Okay, so you're already you are a formidable stand-up comic. We know who you are. You're on TV.
No, I'm just starting out.
You're just starting out.
I just come out here now. I did come out with a pretty strong act, and I was writing for Rodney Dangerfield, and he brought me out. So it wasn't like I came in. But this is the first thing I've ever had. This is the first gig I've ever had. No, that's not true. Outside of a couple of spots of the dating game. But
did you go on a date?
Yeah.
Okay, we have to circle back to that. But so wait, do you have a SAG card?
That got me the SAG card.
That's dating game.
No.
Hollywood Nights. Okay, so you don't have a SAG card. Do you have an agent?
Yes.
So that's how you get sent up?
Yes. Harriet Hellberg.
Harriet's really good for Harriet. Sandy Hellberg. I love Sandy's in the movie, right?
Yes, he is. Yes. He's the cop. He's Officer Bimbo and Clark.
There you go.
The Harriet Hellberg either saw me. She was kind enough to bring me in. I am forever in her debt. And
quite a few people.
Yeah, no, it's good. And I got the part, so.
Okay, so what do you remember your audition?
I had lived a lot of stuff because I forgot.
No script.
Not much. But what's interesting is, okay, so the first day of shooting comes, and I'm not shooting the first day. My character's a shoot. But, I figure I'll go to the set in an act of solidarity.
Do you know the other?
No. I've met Binder I knew because of the clubs.
Right.
So I'm 26 years old, 25, 26 years old.
Oh my God, that's so crazy.
And I go to the set the first day, and there's pandemonium going on. And
in what way?
Well, the first day of principal photography means the writer-director gets paid. So that means that he's in the bag by noon. So then I'm watching this Academy Award-nominated cinematographer, the great William Fraker, who did Heaven Can Wait.
Oh, one of my favorite films of all time.
He does all this great stuff.
Yeah.
He had worked with Floyd Mutrux, who's the writer-director before, who, again, I'm also indebted to the rest of my life.
Wow.
And they're trying to shoot 3 cameras in a room about this size. Yeah. And it's crazy. And by noon that day, they're over budget.
For the whole film. I love it.
So during all this, I'm trying to lay low because I'm realizing everybody's screaming at everybody else. So and I don't have to point the finger at me. I don't, it's my fault. I haven't even gotten to, start to say anything.
Wait, who's screaming at who?
The executive producer.
Yeah.
A guy named Bill Tennant.
Okay.
Is yelling at the producer.
Because they're already over budget.
And he says, with all this craziness that's going on, and I mean it's craziness, I see the executive producer, Bill Tennant, pull over the great Dick Lederer, the decent man, and he goes, okay, tomorrow this shit stops. We're getting a new caterer. From that moment on, I said, oh boy, am I going to enjoy showbiz. I said, if I ever do my memoirs, it should be called tomorrow we're getting a new caterer. That's the guy. He had to do something. That's what these guys do a lot of times, producers. They'll fire, there's certain producers who make it a habit, that is their routine, that they will fire somebody the first day of the set.
Yeah.
Whether it's craft services, the caterer, a grip, they're going to fire somebody because they feel that now the crew will be on its toes. No, this is not a joke. People lose their jobs like this. And there's people who do that. There are obviously very, not people who have a lot of self-esteem, but they'll make a point every day, every show they do, they're going to fire somebody the first day. It's just, they want to make
a precedent.
They make a statement.
Did they keep firing people, or it was just that?
Yeah, a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, so you're the leading role in in this movie, and you've never done this. Are they directing you, or?
I knew what I had to do, and I had lived a lot, and it was fun. I had an acting background. I'd been to school.
What'd you go to school?
University of Houston.
And what was your degree?
Degree.
What
I crammed 4 years into 7.
What were you studying?
Well, I was communications and drama. And we had a great drama class.
Mm-hmm.
We had a great drama. My classmates, Brett Cullen, Dennis Quaid, Cindy Pickett, Randy was before me. Tommy Toon was taught by the same teacher.
Wow.
I mean, we had great people.
So now, were you all through? Okay, you're a little kid. You're in New Jersey.
No,
right?
I'm in Houston.
You're in Houston. I thought you grew up in New Jersey.
I did. I went to school in Houston.
No, I'm not talking about college. I'm talking about before that. When you're a little kid, you're in New Jersey. You're doing school plays. You always want to do that. Is this something? When do you know you're funny? How do you know you're funny? Are your parents funny?
Yeah, my dad was real funny.
Your dad was funny.
My mother was a great audience too, which is really important. Yeah, my brother's very funny too. I always knew what I wanted to do was be a storyteller, filmmaker, that kind of thing. I knew that at a very young age. I knew that by the time I was 10.
Were you a storyteller when you were a kid?
I probably was, yeah.
And so you're in school plays starting?
I was, and I wrote the school plays a couple of times, the junior show and stuff. It was like a Johnny Carson show and stuff. And then I go to college.
And are you like the class clown? Are you always
class wit?
Class wit.
I don't believe the word clown. A clown to me, no.
Where's makeup? That's different.
Well, or clown. I wasn't. I was.
You were witty.
I was witty. I was funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Clown. I never liked the term clown.
When did you start doing stand-up?
After college. I come back to college. I was writing for some local comics down, local people down, DJs.
Okay, let's roll that back. When did you start writing?
I start writing in college.
What are you writing when you start writing?
Mostly jokes for local comedians and local DJs and local hosts and stuff like that.
Are you getting paid?
Yeah.
Nice.
And then I come out, and then this was when, Catch a Rising Star at first starts getting notoriety.
Mm-hmm.
And the Improv is getting Pryor's been there, and Freddie Prinze has been there, and David Brenner's been there, and Saturday Night Live just started.
Okay.
So I'm zoomed there, right? So I come back, and I start doing stand-up comedy. At the same time, I start selling, knock on Rodney Dangerfield's door, and start selling jokes to Rodney Dangerfield. And so that gave me, and then the other thing was like, I went on the $20,000 pyramid, and I won.
Oh, come on, stop. You won 20 grand?
Actually, it was a $10,000 pyramid back then. I won 10 grand.
You won 10 grand?
Yeah. And so I had a leg up between writing, believe it or not, writing jokes for Rodney Dangerfield and winning the $10,000 pyramid in the club scene back then. And, we were all together. It was just the club scene then is Jay Leno and Lane Boozler and Richard Lewis had left. So now it was Bob Shaw, Jerry, Seinfeld, George Wallace, Larry David, me, Barry Diamond, Paul Reiser. This is the whole group we're there. So this gave me, believe it or not, these two credits gave me a leg up.
Yeah.
So and I had a pretty good act. And I could write.
Yeah.
So that's it. Then I came out to L.A. And then I started getting work. I got this movie and a couple of things. And then.
So did you know when you guys were making this movie that this is?
Oh,
do you have any idea what this is going to be?
No.
It looks like kids' playground.
Yeah. Now that said, when I saw the first cut of it, it was a better movie. It was a much better movie. And I said, my God, this is going to work. And then they tested it, and my character went through the roof. So they said, okay, we're going to give you a patent speech in the beginning. You write the patent speech. And I wrote a patent speech, and it bombed. It made me real unlikable. So then they overreacted and recut the movie a lot more. And the first movie was a much better movie.
Really?
Now it has turned out to be a cult classic.
Yes.
It really is.
I mean, there are people who've literally watched it 100 times.
No, and what happened was It was one of the first movies on HBO in the rotation around 1980.
Right.
And when people really started getting HBO, and it was in the rotation, so it was on like 5 times a day. And it's the type of movie that fathers back then would watch with their sons.
Huh.
And now, what's interesting is those sons have grown up, and now they're watching with their sons. And in fact, I was at a New Jersey, one of those Chiller Theater, one of those conventions in New Jersey 2 weeks ago. And I ran, and we have everything there, Batman stuff and everything, and Arliss and Good Morning Vietnam.
Right.
Ran out of everything Hollywood Nights.
I'm telling you, everybody on the thread is talking about that.
It's a funny movie.
That was my go-to movie in the 80s. I
Really?
wore it out watching it, and your character was my go-to character.
Yeah.
I mean, nonstop.
Everybody is talking.
I think I actually still have the jacket.
Oh,
I think I have a Hollywood Nights jacket.
Oh, that's right.
Probably I couldn't fit into it, but
Doesn't matter,
sure
right?
I have it, yeah.
So what did your parents think of this success of yours?
Well, my dad dies. My dad dies just as I'm starting out. He saw my first jokes on the Tonight Show, and he saw me with the pyramid. And
you wrote for
Rodney.
Oh, writing for Rodney.
Right, he saw that, and then he saw me win on the pyramid, and he died that night.
What?
Yeah, my family's not the healthiest. He had the diabetes and heart disease and everything. He
That
dies that
night?
night. My mother goes to the movies
Yeah.
and tells me how embarrassed she is by the character I'm playing.
Oh. Well, that's a Jewish mother.
Yeah, I mean, because farting volare and doing all this low comedy, and she's totally embarrassed. Yeah. She was totally embarrassed.
After the reception of it, did she come around?
The movie did okay, and it became a big hit later. Mm-hmm. It became a hit later. We were between Animal House and Porky's. Porky's was a much bigger hit.
Right,
commercial.
at the time.
Oh, much
Although
bigger.
who remembers? I don't remember Porky's.
Yeah, but I'm saying Porky, they did like 3 Porky's, and also Police Academies.
Right.
But Hollywood Nights is the better movie.
Well, it stood the test of time.
Well, it has.
And it launched a lot of careers.
Yes, it did.
lot of careers.
Yes, it did.
So
Michelle.
Yeah, Michelle, Tony Danza, right?
Yeah.
And was that Mike Binder's first movie?
Sure, he was 21, so 22.
Oh my God, that's crazy. So so you come off of Hollywood Nights, and you have a little coin. Little coin.
I had more coin because of the pyramid.
So and you've already done the dating game?
Oh yeah, that was.
So now is doing the dating game like a setup because you're really an actor, or is doing the dating game because you're going on?
No, actors. They use comics and actors all the time.
Okay.
Because we were self-contained. I was on all the time. I went on one time as Lawrence Talbot. If the Wolf Man, that's the dog. I came on one time dressed in bandages, like I was in an accident, and I had my hand in a sling. They loved me because I was just ad lib, and they used. Tom Selleck would go on the dating game. Andy Kaufman was on the dating game. Paul Rubens was on the dating games. Paid money. It was a paying gig,
right.
And it got you towards your, it paid for your rent. A lot of people on the dating game. So.
Wow, I wonder if those are archived somewhere.
There it is. Somebody sent it to me the other day.
YouTube.
Yeah,
really?
No, I'm on it.
Oh, I got it.
I got one about a week ago. Somebody sent it to me.
I gotta find it. That's hysterical. But then you had to go on the date, right?
Well, you don't have
to.
I went with the date and the chaperone. He got laid.
He got
laid. Wow. That's when you know times are bad.
Oh, that's hysterical. So you're doing this. You're making money. What's the big dream at this point?
Same as it's been. Make movies, tell stories. Work with the best people you can, and and the Hollywood Nights didn't go anywhere as far as commercially. So I didn't get.
When did you work again after that?
In a movie a while, but what happened in between is I kept doing stand-up, and I had auditioned for Airplane. The Zucker brothers. They came and saw me. A lot of people, they auditioned everybody.
Really?
For the Robert Hayes part.
For the Robert Hayes part?
Yeah, they auditioned everybody. David Letterman was auditioning. But anyway, they didn't hire me. Mm-hmm. But then they were starting this TV show. Mm-hmm. And they asked me to be one of the writers on the TV show. And I said, yeah, sure. So I worked on a show called Police Squad. That was their show, right? Yeah. So I was a writer on Police Squad. So that
was that your first TV writing gig?
Yes. And we were off the air, and we did 6 episodes, and we were pulled after 4. I used to do a joke. We were fired so fast, I didn't have time to rip off the supply room.
But how come I remember that show?
It's a great show. Leslie Nielsen. It was the forerunner to all the Naked Gun movies.
Wow.
So we did that, and that taught me a lot. And then from there, I did not
People are asking questions already.
I didn't get, I wasn't getting a lot of work then. And then it was about...
You're still selling jokes?
No. No, I'm doing my own thing.
Okay.
But I am writing, and I got a couple of screenwriting gigs as far as staff writing.
Like what?
I sold scripts to, I was under contract to Paramount. I worked for Warner Bros. I worked all this stuff, but I wasn't getting...
Did any of that stuff get made?
No. And then somebody sees me, and Mary Lambert, who was a director, is doing a video, and she cast me, and because I'm doing it, and they said, okay, I'm casting you, you're going to play a studio head with Keith Carradine. Keith Carradine, because we're doing this video, and it's Material Girl.
Aww.
So in the beginning of it, the video starts with Keith Carradine playing like Howard Hughes. He's in a film room, and we're watching a screening, and he's watching her watching her,
right?
And he's smoking like this, and I'm the yes man next to him saying, "Oh, she's great, very fast talking. She's great, she's the best, she's doing this. She's not too old. It's like so. Then the song starts. Well, it happened to be maybe the biggest video of the year that year.
I have to go. I haven't seen that video in years.
Yeah.
I didn't even remember there was a beginning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. And so that happened, and then right after that.
So does that launch something?
Well, I don't know if it definitely gave you more visibility. What also happened at the time is Barry Levinson. I had met with I met with him for Diner, didn't get Diner, and I had met with him for another show of his, didn't get that. But then he was about this time he's casting Good Morning Vietnam. And Robin and I were friendly. So I think Robin had nothing to do with that, but Barry cast me Good Morning
Now,
Vietnam.
you and Robin are from... Okay, so you're doing stand-up out here by that time. So
I come out here in 79.
Oh, yeah, so you've been here for a while. Okay.
Yeah, I've been here about 6-7 years.
So...
When's Material Girl? About 84, 85? Something got to be around there.
No, it's earlier than that. No?
Maybe it's 83, I don't know.
I don't know. Okay, so you get cast in Good Morning Vietnam. That's your next film.
Yeah.
And that has to launch stuff.
Well, it hasn't been out yet. You did the movie, you had a great time. You don't know. Remember, at this point, Robin has not had a big hit.
Really?
He's not had a big hit at this time. All his movies haven't done that well. But this vehicle, you knew. We were there, and you knew. That's all a lot of it's improvised.
Wait, is this the one when he's Russian?
That's afterwards.
That's afterwards. Okay.
Okay.
So what had he done before that?
Popeye.
Oh.
Is Garp before this? Or I bet for Garp.
Garp.
I bet for Garp too.
Garp was great.
Was Garp before or after this?
Garp was great.
Had to be before this, I think.
That had to do well, Garp.
Garp, but it wasn't a huge hit. It wasn't the explosive hit of Robin Williams. No one ever says, "Oh, I think of Robin Williams, I think of Garp." No, it's Good Morning Vietnam.
Yeah.
That was the one. At the first part.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was great. And you talk about one of the great human beings of all time, who's very much missed, and I miss him. And I known him for the clubs together. So I miss Robin. So that I finished that, and then my agent called and said, "Yeah, there's a baseball movie." They know I'm a huge baseball fan. And she says, "Well, there's a baseball movie being made. I'm going to get you in to see the writer-director." So I read the script, and it's got like 2 lines for the character. But I said, "Well, what the hell? Let's go in and improvise and stuff." And I go in, and I give what Ron Shelton says was the absolute worst audition he had ever seen. He said to the casting director, "That's the worst audition I've ever seen. Hire him immediately."
Oh, stop.
Yeah.
Why?
I was all over the place because Ron was smart enough to know what I was doing. I was the comic relief. He could cut to me at any time, and I'd have something to say, and I knew all this baseball jargon. My dad had played baseball, so I knew how to say, "Come, baby, come, better, here you go. No better, here, no better. I got you. Take another go, another better." So I could do all that stuff. So he cast the movie, and at that time there was no star hotter that was on the way up than Kevin Costner.
Right.
And it had Susan Sarandon in it.
Right. And Tim Robbins. It was a pretty...
Nobody knew Tim Robbins.
Right, that's
Tim
true.
Robbins, the only thing that... Wait, let me get back. Tim Robbins, the only thing knew was from Howard the Duck.
Oh my God.
Tim Robbins was not...
Wow.
Tim had to overcome that. He had done great work if you saw like 5 quarters or something, but he was a star of Howard the Duck, and that had taken a huge bath. And... And he was not the studio's choice by any stretch of the imagination.
Really?
No.
Who'd they want? Do you know?
Yeah, Anthony Michael Hall.
Wow.
That is a completely different movie.
Okay.
Susan Sarandon with Anthony Michael Hall. Come on, that is a completely different movie.
Well, I gotta tell you, at the time,
He was huge, yeah.
At the time, what I'm saying, at the time, if you would have said Tim Robbins and Susan Sarandon, you would have like, what? It's like,
well,
I tell you, when we were on the set,
physically they look. That works.
It's a very special thing. Ron Shelton tells me the story.
Yeah, we want to hear it.
Oh, this is good juice.
Yeah. Did she get to pick who it was going to be?
No,
she had no clout.
Well, they didn't want her either.
Oh.
They did not want Susan Sarandon.
Who did they want?
They had their list. And what happened was Susan had read the script. Susan was very smart. She had read the script in Italy. Mm-hmm. She knew what a part it was. On her own dime, she flies back to California. Wow. Mm-hmm. And as they're having meetings, Susan, very smart, as Ron Shelton tells the story, wore this really hot red dress to clung to her. And she's walk by the studio executive, she knocked on the door, and she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, it's the wrong door." One of these things.
She, on purpose,
sure,
of course, yeah.
Sure. And after she walked out, they all thought, "Hey, what about Susan Sarandon?" It's very smart. And they wanted Anthony Michael Hall. And as Ron Shelton told me the story. So they wanted him to fly across the country. He was in New York. Uh-huh. And meet with Ron. No, they wanted Ron to meet with him. Mm-hmm. So Ron flies across the country. They got no Ron. Ron's the next ball player. Ron's a guy. Ron's a guy's guy. Mm-hmm. So women adore him, but he's a guy's guy. Uh-huh. And it would be like William Holden type of guy. And Ron goes across the country, and he's been first-time director, so he's got his problems. Mm-hmm. So he meets with Anthony Michael Hall. He's supposed to meet at the old Columbus Cafe. So he's waiting enough. He keeps him waiting for a little bit, which is one thing. Ron got a temper, but he do that. And then he sits down. Anthony Michael Hall says, "Yeah," he goes, "Did you read the script?" "No, I'm on page 40, but I got some thoughts. I got some notes." And Ron says, I goes, "Okay, well, when you finish it, get back to me." So he goes back to his hotel room, and he's furious. He is fucking furious. And he tells the agent and the studio guys, "I'm not working with this fucking guy. I fucking fly across the country, and he's on page 30, and he's giving me notes." And his agent says, Ron, listen, I apologize. Look, if you stay one more day, I promise he'll finish the script, and you can talk. Stay one more day." He goes, "Okay." Goes back the next day. Anthony Michael Hall shows up. He says, "How's it going?" He goes, "Well, I'm on page 60. And I got to go." And Ron says, "I will quit this movie rather than put this guy in there." And then there was a lot of people. I remember Eric Stoltz at the audition. Uh-huh. I remember there was a lot of good actors. Mm-hmm. And when they said Tim, it was one of these things, I did not know Tim. Mm-hmm. And we became friendly on that. And, I haven't seen him in a while, but I have such respect for Tim Robbins. Tim and Susan both. They walk the walk and talk the talk.
Well, except for what they did politically, but we won't go there. For the fact
Susan.
that she cost Hillary the election.
Oh, sure she did. Oh, she's got that kind of clout. She's got that kind of clout.
The whole Burton
Are you one of these
thing?
people? Are you not blaming Hillary at all for this?
No, well, we're not going to talk about
Come
that.
on.
All right.
Maybe go to Wisconsin once might help.
Okay,
please.
All right, so tell.
Do you know I have a friend? We got to go here.
I know your father was a Republican. My mom was Democrat.
My mom was a Democrat.
I know that.
So,
and your wife's a lefty communist, like me. Yeah.
but you got to remember too, the Republican. I have to qualify that.
Yeah.
Republican Party in New York, New Jersey back then.
Actually, my mother's not. She calls herself an independent.
Well,
but independents always vote Republican.
No, they don't. I don't do that.
Are you an independent?
Absolutely.
And you don't always vote Republican?
No.
Okay, you're unusual.
Me too.
You're an independent?
I'm independent.
I'm not registered. I'm a registered independent.
Yeah, but I'm leaning logical.
Yeah, here's the difference. A Republican back then, we're talking in the 60s and 70s, there was a liberal wing of the Republican Party. You're talking about Javits. Mm-hmm. You're talking about Lowell Weicker. Mm-hmm. You're talking about Old Man Romney. You're talking about Rockefeller. Mm-hmm. You're talking about it wasn't the Goldwater wing. There was a big liberal wing of the Republican Party, which now are sort of like Clinton Democrats. So So basically, that it's not the same party, you know. Now, in fact, the Goldwater Republicans wouldn't recognize these guys there. But as far as so I got a buddy. I'm not going to say his name, and he is convinced. Listen to this one.
So we would know this buddy. Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh sure.
Oh yeah.
And he is convinced that for 7 months now, that Hillary is going to be the Democratic nominee. Convinced. And he's bet everybody at this card game. I was the first night. He goes, "You are that?" I go, "Make this easy on yourself." I said, and I'm there with just like I'm everybody there is as liberal as it comes. And if they're looking at him like he's from the moon, I go, "No, she's not going to be." And I go, "You watch. They're going to get all deadlocked. They're going to turn to." I go, "They will turn to El Chapo before they turn to Hillary Clinton on this thing." I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all right.
But he's got all these bets. Truthfully, he
Really?
made all these bets. Yeah.
Well.
I'm going to eat well. I ate well the last election, though.
Speaking of eating well, when did you become when did you become a foodie? Because we have.
Well, that's all Drew. I mean, that's
Okay,
Drew.
we have a mutual friend, Drew Nieporent, who I worked with at Maxwell's Plum a million years ago, who owns Tribeca Grill and Nobu and
Batard.
and Batard, and he's a James Beard Award-winning restaurateur. How did you become friends with Drew?
At Montrachet.
Okay.
I think right after Batman opened, I ate at Montrachet. And I fell in love with it. And, Drew came over, and we're both huge sports fans.
Yes.
And we've become real. I mean, that's about it's got to be close to almost 30 years ago.
Yeah, he and I go back 40 years, and the day that I went to Montrachet, De Niro was sitting there with Tukey Smith, and that was the day they made their deal to do Tribeca Grill, and the plate said Tribeca Grill.
I should have invested. They asked me to invest.
Everybody invested.
I was backing it. I backed my movie, Bad Move.
Yeah,
I love Tribeca Grill. Tribeca Grill is a solid, quintessential New York restaurant. I think
we had a great meal there recently. My
I'm telling
telling
you,
works there.
It's a really good.
The food is
It's
excellent.
a solid New York restaurant.
They have excellent Brussels sprouts. So you became a foodie because Drew kind of opened your mind, your palate.
Well, I always like to go to good restaurants. I mean, I always went to restaurants beforehand. But Drew, the connection with Drew, just by osmosis, you meet the Drew. In fact, I was very fortunate when Drew asked me, and I remember the date on this one. This has got to be, could be 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Bon Appetit Awards.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I'll tell you the date later. The Bon Appetit Awards in New York is at Restaurant Danielle, which is, Danielle Blue.
I've been. Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is as good as it gets. It's
Yeah.
a private room.
Mm-hmm.
And so he asked me,
Mm-hmm.
would I introduce him? And they flew me back on American Airlines first class for this dinner. And there's only I would say maybe 50 people at this private dinner.
Uh-huh.
And it was a who's who. My barber and I went. It was a who's who. It was Wolfgang Puck, Julia Child,
Uh-huh.
Alice Waters, Dean Faring from the Mansion on Turtle Creek, the late Charlie Trotter from Chicago. It was, I'm leaving somebody on, Jacques Papin.
Mm-hmm.
It was a who's who at this dinner.
Uh-huh.
And I'm there, and it was a great night, and Drew got the award, and these were the top of the line. I was in
food heaven.
Yeah, it really was. And Daniel Ballou was cooking for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and that night was just one of the great nights. And we always remember it because the date was September 11th, 2000.
Oh, wow. What are you pointing to?
The little dog that's in the...
Oh, I didn't see him. Aw.
It's Mr. Max.
Mr. Max. Hi, Mr. Max. So, but I want to go back to Bill Durham for a minute because, we hadn't mentioned the name of the movie, by the way, until just now. But it was Bull Durham. But I understand that you improvised a line that has become an iconic gift and line.
Made my life easier.
So tell us about that.
Well, what happened was, a week before we start shooting, a good friend of mine in Houston was getting married. And I called my wife and said, Barbara, what do I get for a wedding present? And she stops and thinks, well, candlesticks always make a nice gift. Or find out where she's registered and get a silverware pattern. Okay. So then...
she says that exact thing to you?
Exact.
Okay.
So now a month later, we're shooting the scene on the mound. and I'm the last scene at night because the cameras were all going out towards the field.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was going out towards the field, and I'm coming in from the dugout. So you have to turn around to get me. So I'm the last scene at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's cold because we're shooting in November. And they have the whole scene there on the meeting on the mound, and the setup is that I run out and go, "What's going on here?" And Kevin's got the line, well, Nuke's father's in the stand. The first baseman's girlfriend has put a curse on the glove. We don't know what to get Millie and Jimmy for a wedding present. We're dealing with a lot of shit here. And my line was, "Oh, I thought there was a problem." Okay, that was the line.
Okay.
And we shot it, 3-4 times, and then Ron Shelton, and this is all Ron Shelton.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Okay, Robert, it's like, I know you've been sitting in the dugout all night long. You had to come up with something. Okay, one take, say whatever you want to say." Last time. And he goes, "Run 2 cameras." And they set it up, and they say...
Had you been thinking of something?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, okay.
And it came up, we're dealing... The first baseman put a curse on the glove. Nuke's father's in the stands, and we don't know what to get Millie and Jimmy for a wedding present. And I took a beat, and I thought, said, well, candlesticks always make a nice gift. I find out where she's registered and get her a silverware pattern. And I go, "Okay, let's get 2." And Ron says that's what sells the joke is, "Okay, let's go, come on." And, okay, so now, the next day at dailies, we're watching the rushes. It was nice. We're shooting in Durham, and everybody would get together after work at night and watch the dailies, and everybody would have some, the refreshments would pop out, and various illegal things would happen. And we'd all watch it. And remember, you watch the dailies as they're shot. Now, a lot of the people had left, by the time this had happened. So when this scene came up, and I said that, the place exploded in laughter. I thought, that's awfully cool. I got to see it. There's no way it's ever going to be in the movie, and there's no way. And then later on, Ron invites me to an early screening, and I see it, and it's in the movie. And
it gets a laugh in the audience, of course.
My jaw drops because I have to. But this is Ron Shelton, though.
Yeah.
I know a lot of directors, writer-directors especially, who would say, "Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, it's in character. But I didn't write it, and it's not stayed in my movie." But that wasn't the case. Now, that said, the studio wants to cut the whole scene. They want to cut the entire scene on the mound.
Why?
Their answer was, "It doesn't move the plot. It doesn't push the plot." And Ron Shelton said, "What plot? There is no plot in this movie." He said, "There is no plot. This is what we talk about. This is it's like Diner. What plot?" And he said, the only reason it stayed in, and the only reason it stayed in, is when they did the focus groups. They filled out the charts. They said, "What is your favorite scenes in the movie?" It was always number 1 or number 2.
Wow.
That's the only reason it stayed in.
Wow. Your joke did it. That's fabulous.
Well, the whole scene's pretty. The scene's pretty funny beyond that, and it would have worked with the other line too. It's just
not as funny, but
what
yes.
made my life easier is that I don't ever have to worry about getting a wedding present.
So you always bring candlesticks when you go to
People
a wedding?
are disappointed if I don't. I just had a wedding a couple of weeks ago. Candlesticks.
Love it. That's hysterical. Okay, so you have touches of being iconic all over the place.
So Good Morning Vietnam opens up, and then about 5 or 6 months later, Bull Durham opens up. So there's 2 good back-to-back. And then I get a call from Marion Dougherty. I had known Marion Dougherty is the grand doyen of casting directors. In the documentary Casting By, it was all about Marion. She started the casting director business in New York.
Really?
There were no casting directors before Marion Dougherty. Wow. She gave Robert Duvall, Gene Hackman, Dustin Hoffman their first job. She liked me. She always took a liking to me. So she calls me in. She says, "Robert, I want you to read this." And, so I read, and it's Batman. And she says, "I want you to come in and meet Tim Burton." And, first she had me read with her. Then I read with her first. And then she had me come back to meet with Tim Burton. And then Tim came back and saw an advance of Bull Durham. And he said, "Yeah, you got the job." So that's a good gig.
So now that gig.
That was special. There's nothing like it. There was nothing like it.
So what was that like?
First of all, it's London. That's number 1. You're shooting the most expensive movie of all time in London. Wow. So you're living really good. You got Batman per diem there.
Batman per diem.
I mean, it's like you're traveling on the Concorde. So, and I was old enough. I wasn't a kid at this point. You know, I was like 35, 36 years old.
Okay.
So I'm old enough to enjoy this. I'm going to enjoy every second of this.
Now Michael Keaton was a pretty unusual. I mean,
At the
I
time,
adore him, but he
at
was
the time,
yes.
It's so funny when you look back now. Everybody says, "Oh, Michael Keaton's the best Batman." They don't remember.
I remember.
If there was social media,
yes.
had there been, I don't think they would have gotten away with Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
They would not have gotten away with Michael. They would have killed him, Mr. Mum. In fact, I remember being in London, Mr. Mum's playing Batman, Mr. Mum. I mean, now I knew Michael from the clubs also. I knew how talented Michael was.
Right.
I had also seen a movie he had done called Clean and Sober.
I love that movie.
And he is so good. I knew
so
Michael,
good.
You know, and Michael's a Pittsburgh kid.
Wasn't he nominated for an Oscar for
No,
that?
no.
I think he was.
No. That movie died. The movie didn't go
No, but
anywhere.
I thought he was nominated. He was great in that movie.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah.
What's an interesting story sidebar here?
Yeah.
Is when we were in. He just had a big hit. He had done. I don't know if he did Mr. Mom for Warner Brothers. He had done
with Henry
Beetlejuice.
Winkler. He did Henry
was that
Winkler.
from Warner Brothers? No, I know that was. It was. I don't remember. It was Flash.
Night Shift.
Night Shift.
Night Shift.
Night Shift. Yeah.
Night Shift. But he had done Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
From Warner Brothers, which is a big hit.
Yeah.
So they also had he done Clean and Sober.
How much before Batman was Beetlejuice? Was that just
a year or two?
Okay.
Yeah, he had done Clean and Sober in between. And it was funny because they were talking. Clean and Sober was supposed to be Tom Hanks, I think. The story went, and Marc Canton, who was the head of the studio, told me, "This is how things work out." He says Tom Hanks was supposed to do Clean and Sober, I think. And I guess Glenn Gordon Cameron, who's the director, said, I'm not sure if he's the right guy for this movie or not. And so Tom gets out of that, and they hire Michael Keaton. At the same time, Robert De Niro is with Penny Marshall. He's going to do this movie called Big. And then De Niro drops out, and Hanks goes into that. De
Niro was going to be the character in Big?
Yep.
I can't even picture that.
Well, remember, De Niro at that time was Brando.
Yeah.
You got to remember,
De Niro,
this is coming right after Raging Bull. This is coming right after, I think, King of Comedy, right about that time, maybe even before.
Yeah, but still, he seems too old to have done that innocence of Big.
Maybe. Look, you can't think of anybody but Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
But that's the way Hollywood stories go.
Wow. Okay, so wait. So go back. So you're in London. You're doing Batman.
And you go into this amazing set every day. That is Gotham City. I mean, Tim Burton. I've been pretty fortunate to work with some really good people. Tim is a different type of artist. He is a stylist. He is an artist. He has a great sense of humor.
What is he like as a person?
He's great. I've always had the.
Is he eccentric as hell?
I don't know.
No?
He's working. I mean, he has his likes and dislikes. I mean, look, my college room. I understand artists a little bit. That's my college roommate. It's like so.
Julian Schnabel?
Yeah, my college roommate.
Oh my.
My dorm roommate freshman year at the University of Houston. So I've lived with these guys.
That's crazy.
So,
when did he become? When in chronologically did he become fit? When did he break?
He breaks, I guess mid '80s, early mid '80s, because when I was doing Batman, he's already established as a star.
Okay.
Yeah. He's already established because we would go to dinner with him and Nicholson and Charles Saatchi and Saatchi.
Oh my God!
I was in that art world for a split second. That's a bullshit world. You think the movie world's full of shit? Wow, the art world. Whew.
How so? Why so?
Because it's just a bullshit. It's like anything else. It's like, you look at something and you go, what the fuck is this? And it's like, but if enough critics get behind it, or these art, that's enough. I mean, it's a totally different world. I mean, it's like, and it's totally subjective. Totally subjective. But Batman, Jack.
All right, so talk about Jack. So what's it like working with Jack?
Nothing better. Now, I only had one scene with him, but he took a liking to me, and he allowed me to ride home with him in his car every now and then from the city, because it was an hour from Pinewood Studios to our hotels, and it was an adventure. It was just a wonderful. He was just.
Jack was at the top of his. I mean,
he was the guy, and he was also the greatest raconteur storyteller of all time. and he'd have all these great stories.
Do you remember any story he's told?
Well, I once asked him, at that time, Meryl Streep was just starting to become the Meryl Streep we know.
Really?
I mean, you knew she was a terrific actress, but she wasn't the god that she became. So, but I always thought this woman's special. And I asked Jack, because Jack had done 2 movies with her at that point. He had done, neither of them were very successful. What's it called? Heartbreak? What's the one about Nora Ephron?
Oh, yeah.
What's it called? Heartburn?
Heartburn.
And she had done Ironweed.
Yeah, not very successful either.
No, they were both good. And I said, Jack, what's it like? Because I asked him, because I just thought, this woman's special. Something. And he said, loved it. It's nice to be pulled along every now and then, rather than always having to do the pulling.
That's a good impression.
Yeah. Oh, I love being with Jack.
Oh. Did you watch him on set? Would you go to watch him?
Sure.
Oh, hell yeah.
Sure, it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun.
And so was Michael Keaton taking shit? I mean, I seem to recall there was a lot of
it was
backlash.
awful. It was awful. Now, by the time we got there, we were insulated from it a little bit in London. We were insulated from that. It was pretty. And it's Tim. It was Tim.
Did you anticipate that it was going to be the hit that it was?
I thought it was going to be pretty big. I thought it was. I knew it'd be released. It was too expensive. It was the most expensive movie of all time up to that point.
Was it really?
Yeah. A lot of people's jobs were riding on this thing, so I knew it would get every opportunity.
Was it a game changer for you?
It sure helped. When you're in a hit movie, you're yeah.
So what happened after Batman?
What did I do after Batman? I did another movie with Eric Idle. Then I did a movie for Barry Primus called Mistress, which I love. Mistress was Tribeca's first film.
Mistress.
And it's an independent film. It's the best work as an actor I've ever done. That's because of Barry Primus.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who else is in the cast? I feel like I've seen it.
Let me think. It's about a guy, a young would-be auteur, a has-been producer, gets this over-the-hill young auteur, and they want to try to make a movie independently. But the 3 money men all want their mistress to play the lead in the movie. And it was Tribeca's first film. The producer was played by Martin Landau, the great Martin Landau. And the 3 producers were Eli Wallach, Danny Aiello, Robert De Niro.
Wow! Oh, I did see that movie.
And the 3 mistresses were going Tuesday, I think her name was Tuesday Night, believe it or not. Cheryl Lee Ralph, the great Cheryl Lee Ralph, and Jean Smart. And Laurie Metcalf played my wife. And Christopher Walken's in the movie.
Wow!
I mean, I would go to work every day.
I'm gonna go watch that again.
It's a good movie. It's film students always come up to me and talk to me about Mistress because that's the world they're really in, independent films, and that's a real independent.
So,
film.
What kind of role is that for you? That it was the best acting you've ever done?
I was a failure as I was this young would-be auteur filmmaker who wouldn't give an inch, but I'm having to because of you learn the nature of the business. And Barry Primus, who basically I was playing. Barry was playing Barry. And he stayed on me and really that's the best work I think I've ever done.
Okay, I got to go back and watch that. Have you seen it, Pete? I have to go back and watch it.
It's just a good movie.
Funny. And are you continuing to write through this?
I'm always writing. And I did my own movie. Then I wrote and directed my own movie, Open Season it was called. And we did that in Toronto. And then right after that, I started Arliss.
Okay, so how was Arliss something that you had been?
No, what happened with Arliss was I was working on my movie over here, and what happened was HBO, Mike Tolan, went to HBO with an idea for the Spinal Tap of sports, as he put it, go from one to another. And
wait, did you play sports as a? I know you.
But I played intramural stuff. No.
But it was never about that. Your passion was so. Who were your teams when you were?
I grew up in New York. Mets, Yankees, Mets. I sold beer in the Astrodome when I was in there. So Mike came to HBO about this idea of the spinal tap of sports, and I had done some work with HBO. They knew me there, Chris Albrecht, and they said, they knew I was involved with sports. They said, well, see if you get Robert Wuhl to get involved with writing this thing. And they told me the idea, and I thought about it, and I came back and said, look, I've seen this on the spinal tap of sports. What I'd like to do, though, is there's a world coming out now of sports agents. And Mike Tolan was a sports guy, so he knew all about sports agents, and I knew about it.
You were pre-risky business.
Pre-Jerry Maguire.
Pre-Jerry Maguire.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
Right.
And I knew all about, I knew a couple of things. I said, I'd like to do a satire on the world of sports as told through the eyes of a very self-serving sports agent.
Did you have one in mind?
Yeah. Well, if I tell you who it was, I mean, it wasn't, because they were agents. It wasn't just sports agents. To me, it was an agent. I don't care if it was a talent agent, a real estate agent, a travel agent. Their job is parasitic by nature. You have to make a sale and you get a percentage of that sale. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's what it is. Now, I'm thinking as a writer, I said, I'd do a 6-episode miniseries about this. And they said, okay. And they liked the idea. And I went off and wrote a script. And it was well received, but they wouldn't give us the go-ahead yet. They said, okay, let's get 2 or 3 more scripts out. And we read about 2 or 3 more. And they still wouldn't give us the go-ahead. And then what happened was...
Are you writing this for yourself?
At the time, they said, yeah, we want the idea, we want you to play the agent.
Okay.
So, yeah, I am writing for myself. So then, if you notice, I had read this, and it's so weird nowadays, because at the time, I had read Trump, The Art of the Deal. And I said, this is totally full of shit. I said, I don't believe a fucking word of this thing. I love it as a template that we could narrate, and he'll tell you his story, and we can then show what actually happened. So if you look at the beginning of Arliss, a book spins out, and I say, my name is Arliss Michaels, I represent athlete, these are my stories. And a book spins out, and it says Arliss, the art, and I'm holding a bat over my head, it says the art of the super agent. And that picture is directly from Trump. Absolutely. Now, we later on got away from that, because I just like Seinfeld got away from the monologues. We realized as you get better, you don't need to have as much narration.
Right.
So, voiceover. But that's what happened. That's how it happened. And finally, Michael Fuchs, who was a sports fan and would not give me the green light, he was replaced by Chris Albrecht, who first put me on stage. And Chris says, I'm not a sports fan, but I think this is funny. I think he's saying something. And that's how I got to go ahead.
And you were actually groundbreaking in a lot of ways. Because you weren't just talking about sports. You were talking about sexuality. I mean, there were all kinds of issues that came up on
but
that
it was all in sports. The best thing was that I grew so much because, it had to be a comedy. Yeah. But I said, I can go other places here. I'd like to get a little darker in certain places. I like MASH, so... were you the first series of its kind on HBO? No. Larry Sanders had been before us. And First and 10 and Dream On, they had those before us. So they had those series. I came in the next wave. I was probably it was me, then Sex and the City was the next year, then Sopranos, and then 6 Feet Under. But what happened was I realized the best compliment, and I would get compliments, the best compliment I got one time was at the Tribeca Film Festival at the big dinner, and Fran Lebowitz comes up to me, chain smoking, and says, I hate sports, but I love your show. And I said, thank you. I go, but it's not about sports. It's about characters in the world of sports. That's totally different. It's not about a big game or some crap like that. That's why most sports movies fail. They're always told from the point of view of the fan. The fan only cares about one thing, whether the team wins or loses. That's all they care about. They don't care how you did it. That's all they care about. Like Ron Shelton said, I didn't know what the fan thought because he was an ex-ball player. So I knew what the guy at second base thought. He was thinking, I'm trying to keep my job. And that's what Arliss was. Arliss was a guy. See, my father had a business. So
what kind of business?
He was they were fruit distributors. And so it's family business for generations, still around.
Who's running it?
Not the family anymore. But it's still around, and it was very successful. But I knew about what business was about, and I knew about getting people paid, and I knew about what's going to happen, and I wasn't going to fall into some sentimental bullshit. So yes, we did stories about. My favorite stories are about Ed Asner playing an announcer that's coming down with Alzheimer's, because my father-in-law had Alzheimer's. And then I love the domestic abuse, and I love steroids, and I love gay athletes, and I did transgender athletes, and we did alcoholism. We did, because I love when I hear these stories about people who are hammered, they get drunk on the tour or drunk in something, and then they sober up and they talk about, but I go, what happens if they don't win though? I go, what if they would? It's like this came out of a conversation with Richard Pryor we all had, about getting fucked up and going on stage, and you can be really funny, and then you sober up, and maybe you're not so funny anymore. It does happen. So I said, well, let's do that with a woman golfer, and the LPGA was so happy that they came out to support the show and be in the show because at the time, and this is late 90s, I was the first one. They go, we are so happy you are doing a show about the female tour and you're not talking about lifestyles. It wasn't about lesbians. That's all they were worried about. And I said, no, it's about a golfer. And I would always say, I'm playing the reality of this thing. I'm playing the reality. It was a story one time about a replacement player.
Yeah.
A replacement player with the scabs who took over for the ball players when they went on strike. And I knew that. So in the story, Arliss represents all the big stars in baseball, and a lot of these guys were the leaders of the union, and they hated the scabs, obviously. And Arliss gets locked into his car and explodes, and he gets out of the car. A guy breaks the window, and it's a scab ball player, and he asks Arliss to represent him. And I said, and the writers who I remember, they say, well, how are you going to do that? They go, so you're going to represent him? I go, absolutely not. I go, now that's TV shit if you believe that Arliss is going to give up his 2 biggest clients or 3 biggest clients to represent a guy making a minimum. That'd be like saying you're going to give up, you're going to give up Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds so you can represent Joe Schmo over here. You're not going to do that. It's just, but now it does help him get an agent. But I remember those meetings in the writers' room. I said, no, there's no way. He could help him, but there's no way he's going to sacrifice his business for this. It's just not real. I mean, it's so. I loved it. I got to tell stories, and then I had a little bit of a secret weapon.
What was that?
When I cast the girl, there were 2 women to play his assistant that were. I can say the names now. There were 2 women that came down to the finalists. One was Lauren Graham, who later went to be the star of the Good Gilmore Girls. And the other was this girl out of Canada named Sandra Oh. And I watched her and I said, I think she's funny. And this made me sound, I was very conscious of being in the sports world. I wanted the cast to have as much diversity as I possibly could. So I had Michael Boatman, and I said, I'm in this world of sport, of athletes. There's all minorities and diversity in athletes. I think it's better. And also, I don't know what she's going to give me, and I like that. And so the first year, and then I knew, I just watched her work at how she was getting better and better, more confident. And then something else happened, this was by necessity. Sex and the City starts opening and explodes, and it's on before us. And HBO doesn't like that I'm losing a lot of that audience, because when we first started, we were maybe 23% female. And here comes Sex and the City, and I'm losing a lot of the audience.
Right.
I got to stay on the air.
Right.
So I start gearing stories more towards Sandra, her clothes, everything towards it. I just by necessity, and it just turned out really great. In fact, by the end of the run, after 7 seasons, I was 53% women.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you discovered Sandra Oh.
Well, I hired her. I now discovered her.
Was she? Well, I mean, was she?
She had done a movie I'd seen, an independent film called Double Happiness in Canada, and she's very good. And I liked the energy. I liked. She was a theater person. I'm very partial to theater people, and and she knew where she was funny, and she was committed. And I always thought from the get-go, it's like I thought she was really, really good. And I was going to give her as much as I possibly could.
Interesting. 53% female is crazy percentage for a sports show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, it wasn't about sports.
Right, but it wasn't about sports. It was about the characters. I love that. So Arliss has its long run. What happens? And are you still? What are you doing? Are you just focused on Arliss?
90% is on Arliss. I'm doing a little stand up on the side because it took over my life.
Did you do stand up all the way through?
Yeah, but I was. It was hard because I only got about 3 months, 2-3 months off, and I was just involved in this thing. Right. So it was really hard, and we always go to Europe for vacation. So it was basically all that. And then it ends, and I'm not sure. I'm really trying to develop a couple more scripts, come close to directing, which is where my heart is because I did all that on Arliss. And then I came up with this idea. I told Chris Auerbach, I go, Chris, I got an idea about doing a history thing, about doing this history monologue in front of a real classroom.
Okay, so where was that born? Where did that come from?
There was it comes from growing up, and like most, it came out of a couple of things. One is I like history. Two is I used to watch a show called You Are There, which was in the early days of TV, and it was like reenactments. Walter Cronkite would host the show and everything, and they got all historical elements. Yeah. And I think John Frankenheimer used to direct these episodes. I like that. There was also a show called Sunrise Semester I remember watching.
Oh, God.
And all these shows, and I thought there was a way to teach, there was a way to do a monologue, a document, to make the history kind of funny if you could make it. And the fact that it was on HBO, I could curse. And which was when you're dealing with students is good. And I just thought I could make my points across about history. With not being political, because most people had no idea. Still didn't.
Can you tell us a favorite story from Assume the Position?
Well, it was a lot of stories. It was the whole thing about Paul Revere and Paul Revere wrote the story about him. Why did long? My whole take was that history is pop culture. That pop culture dictates history.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I started the class by saying it. We all grew up with Columbus, went before Isabella, and he was going to prove that the world was, and of course, it was round. Like, okay, now, this is 1492. They've invented the globe. This is bullshit. It's total bullshit. This story. So where does it come from? And it came from because history is pop culture, and at the time, the biggest pop culture figure in America was Washington Irving. Washington Irving was like I said, he was the Spielberg, Tarantino of that moment. What is media back then? There's no movies, TVs.
Right.
You have a town crier, and his circulation is about 50 yards, and then you have books. And Washington Irving becomes the young, hot, hip guy. He writes the Knickerbocker Tales, and he writes Rip Van Winkle, and he writes The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and he is the guy. He is the guy. He's the Beatles. And his next thing he did, he wants a worldwide audience, so he figured let's get a worldwide character, because he's America's first worldwide author. And he decides to write about the life and times of Christopher Columbus. He makes it a 3-volume set, because he knows he's got sequels. and in this book, he makes up this bullshit story about going before Queen Isabella and, wanting to prove that the world is round. And I go into that, and I talked about how I go into a theory that I called the Liberty Vilanch theory, which was based on a movie called The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance.
Sure.
Where when the legend becomes fact, print the legend. And that's what happens. This legend becomes so popular that it becomes fact. And it's not true at all. But the same thing with Paul Revere. Paul Revere comes out of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, who wrote the poem, "Listen, my children, you shall hear at midnight right" of Paul Revere. Well, the guy who really wrote was a guy named Israel Bissell.
Is that so?
Israel Bissell Paul Revere went 13 miles and got caught.
Really?
The other guy did 250 miles.
Is he a Jewish guy, Bissell?
No.
Bissell, of course he's a Jewish guy.
But it goes to my point.
Yeah.
If Longfellow is the pop culture figure at the time. He's done Hiawatha. He has done, all this great stuff. And the House of the Seven Years. So he says, he's not, which is better? Listen, my children, you shall hear the midnight ride of Paul Revere, or come along, kiddies, daddy's going to whistle, tell you the story of Israel Bissell. It's pop culture, and that's what happens. So I did this thing, and the kids loved it, and the students loved it. It was incredibly well received. Most well received thing I ever did.
Really?
It got nominated for the Writers Guild Award. I did another one, and we were about to do another one, but then they had to change over at HBO because there was an incident, and we won't go into that. But the CEO had to leave the company, and the next group didn't want to go ahead with it. So that's that.
And how about those two ladies over there? Pete, can you show those? Can you give a little view of what
don't
we got
do
going?
that.
Yeah, let's show those, because those are very nice looking ladies that you got over there. So how did your relationship with Billy Crystal start?
During the time when I couldn't get arrested.
Thank you, Pete.
One of the things I did, my manager also represented Carl Reiner. And Carl's wife
published my book.
Oh, that's nice. Carl's great. He's one of my heroes. Estelle does her act.
Right.
She was a singer. So she was singing at maybe I think it was the Gardenia room or something like that. Maybe not. It was upstairs somewhere. But anyway, they were looking for a comic for an opening act. So my manager had sent Carl's my tape, and he said, okay, and do it. And I said, I want an opening act for that. Okay. So I go there.
Wait, when is this?
Ooh, this is 80. When did we do?
I mean, you were already like a movie star.
Not at this point. I'm not.
No?
No. I don't think.
Batman's not out yet?
No.
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 Okay.
When do I do? Well, Billy asked. Well, anyway, so I went on. This has got to be in the mid-'80s.
Okay.
Maybe towards the late 80s. I might have done Good Morning Vietnam. I don't think it's out yet.
Okay.
So I'm looking at like 87. Well, anyway, the first night the show, Estelle's, the show, all of her friends come out. So it's like I'm walking out there, and there's Mel Brooks and Anne Bancroft, and there's Billy Crystal and Janice, and there's Christopher Guest and Jamie Lee Curtis, and over here is Carl Reiner. I mean, so it's like, who's who? I do my act. It did pretty well. So I knew Billy's manager, David Steinberg, quite well, and I get a call a couple of months later saying, hey, Billy's going to be hosting the Grammys.
The Grammys?
The Grammys.
Okay.
And he says, would you want to work with him? I said, yeah, sure. So the two of us.
And did you know Billy from...
Not really well.
Okay.
I knew him, but not well, no. And so we started working together on the Grammys, and we had a great time, and it went very well. And we asked him back again, and he did it again. I don't know if he did it he did it 2 times or 3 times. We worked well together.
I don't remember the Grammys.
Yeah. I remember this is Michael Jackson time. This is
wow.
We had to give up our booth to Michael Jackson. I remember Whitney starting the show with I Just Want to Dance, so then Billy gets a call to the Oscars, and he asked me to join him, and it was just the two of us. It's like doing his stuff. It's like I look at the writers, and they had 16, 18 writers.
It was only the two of you?
Me and Billy, with an assist from David Steinberg as manager. It was very funny.
I've met David.
Okay,
you did that whole thing with the song montage?
That comes the next year.
Okay.
Okay, so we do it the first year. It was really
and
well.
it's literally just the two of you.
It was just the two of us.
I know people that were Bruce Vilanch and Carol Pfeiffer and all these people.
Bruce joins the next year.
Okay.
Bruce joins the team the next year. So there's the 3 of us.
Okay.
And that's the year of Jack Palance.
Oh.
And that's the year where everything goes right. And it's the best show
ever.
It was a good show. Now that's it. What was funny is that I was now doing stand-up again. I was in Atlantic City, and we get nominated for an Emmy for writing and it was best variety special. And it wasn't for it was best variety program. It wasn't a special. And I'm in Atlantic City, and I'm flying back for the Emmys. Supposed to fly back for the Emmys. And I didn't want to get up there. I said, we're not going to win this thing. I go, first of all, we shouldn't win. It's how we're up against Saturday Night Live, In Living Color, all these shows that have to put the show on weekly.
Right.
We did one show. Now, what I don't know at the time is you can only submit one show.
They each submit one show, right?
Yes, so it's like, well, it's tough to beat the Oscars with all that star power when everything went great.
Right.
And the ad-libs, everything went great. The show, it's tough to beat the Oscars and that kind of... and so we win. We won twice.
So what's that moment?
It was cool. I regret my...
acceptance speech?
Yeah, it was a
Why?
smart. No, because I should have been more sincere. I did a smart-ass line. It doesn't play well. I'm sorry I did that. But I'm not going to live with it. But it was cool. And then we did it a couple of times. And then Marc Shaiman joins us so we could do the songs. And that was great fun. That was great fun.
That was crazy. So memorable. I can't remember any other Oscars other than those really crucial ones.
We had the right idea. I always thought, Billy and I, we were in focus on this point. It's the whole show. But we always said, it's not the Billy Crystal show. It's not the whole show. It's the Academy Awards. You just happen to be the MC. And I think that advice is well spent. And I think the shows would all be better if the host took that advice. It's not your show. Just if you're not there, it doesn't make a difference. The show's going on. And I have to say, every one of the hosts, they stop the show and do these bits. They don't give a shit. The audience doesn't give a shit about
They
these
bring
bits.
in food from the outside.
They don't give a shit about that.
Yeah.
You gotta remember the Academy Award show, okay? It's a very unique show. People have to be there, okay? I think it starts here about 5 o'clock. That means that the people have start to get ready about noon. They get ready, they spend a lot of money, most people in that audience.
Right.
Because the studios are only paying for the stars.
Right.
Everybody else, it's costing them $5,000-$10,000 to go to the awards.
At least.
You got to get the wardrobe, and you got to get the tickets first of all. That cost a couple of $1,000, and you got to get the limos, and you got to buy you got to get your makeup done. You got to get the new outfits, and everything. So and then you got to get there for that because you have to get into the place. You got to get there about 2.5 hours early. So you got to get through that. By the time you get to your seat, you've been there about 2.5, 3 hours. You don't eat. You got to go to the bathroom. And now the show starts. So your first 10 minutes is what's good. And then you have to remember something else. With every category that goes by, 80% of the people in that audience, in that category, have lost. And they're not looking for, they don't feel so funny anymore. They don't. It's really hard. So when you stop the show and make it longer, and they got to go eat, and they got to go to the bathroom and everything else, you're really doing yourself a disservice. It's, by the time they end the show, it's like you're exhausted. So the key is then they do these bits. They stop and do bits. It's like it's not your show. It's the Academy Awards. It's just do it. Do your stuff up front. You got enough boring songs you got to listen to anyway. When you have all these songs that no one's ever heard of to begin with most of the time, and you got one Disney one that you know it's going to win. So it's like you have to get through this stuff. Don't stop the show. Do a clever bit. I'm sorry, as much as I love Jimmy. Don't go next door to see who's playing the next door. I'm sorry. It stops the show cold. When we would start to do the show, it would come in 3:03. They were going 3:05. I don't know if we ever went more than 5 or 6 minutes over. Now they're going close to 4 hours. It's a unique show to do. The great thing for me in that show, this is what I remember. I mentioned I wrote the stuff for Billy. Now you have other people writing other stuff in the show, the stuff for the presenters or speeches. And that year, the late Gil Case, may rest in peace, the writers he hired was Hal Cantor, Ernst Lehman, and Mel Shavelson. Now, the audience probably doesn't know these people, but Hal Cantor was one of the great comic writers of all time. Mel Shavelson was another great comic writer, wrote a lot of the Bob Hope movies, the Jerry Lewis movies, a lot of great comedies, Seven Little Foys and stuff like that. Ernst Lehman, if you're a screenwriter, Ernst Lehman wrote Sweet Smell of Success, Somebody's Up There Likes Me, Executive Suite, West Side Story, Sound of Music, screenplay of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, The King and I,
Oh my!
North by Northwest.
But wait, none of those are funny.
North by Northwest.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like, so I got to talk with him, and he was surprised I knew, and it's like, so I wanted to talk to him about North by Northwest and writing Family Plot and writing West Side Story and singing and all these. So I mean, that was I loved that. That's what I remember about the Oscars.
Wow. But okay, so none of those movies are funny.
Well, they have to be. Well, I would definitely disagree with you. You don't think Sound of Music has any humor in it?
Sound of Music.
You don't think North by Northwest doesn't have humor in it?
Yes, it's clever as hell.
It's
all
like,
right.
this is, by the way, he's not writing the funny.
What's he writing?
He's writing the other stuff the presenters got to say. He's writing stuff that they're saying that, about movies and about everything. He's not writing anything Billy's saying. That's my job.
Right.
So...
But the presenters, they always try to make them clever too, and that often fails.
And that's mostly the presenter's fault, I think, a lot of times. And nothing pisses a writer off than hearing, hey, I didn't write this. It's like either do it with conviction or don't do it. End of the conversation. Do it with conviction, you're an actor. Or don't do it. Just say something else. Don't do, hey, I didn't write this shit. Boy, who are you going to throw under the bus next? It's like, that's always amazes me. It's about, that's why I like the Tony Awards better than the Oscars sometimes, because first of all, they're much more theatrical. It's, I'm going to have these passionate speakers. I want to thank my third grade drama teacher. I want to thank my partner. It's much better, much more dramatic, and they're not as, you don't get there's no balance of politics on the Tonys. It's all one way. With the Oscars, occasionally you get a little politics in there, and I am not of the opinion that some people that the awards are not the place for politics. I think exactly the opposite. I think if you're going to have a protest about something, why wouldn't you say, what do I want to do? Do I want to get on a street corner where I got 5 people, or do I want to have 50 million people to hear my bitch? It's like, what are you talking about?
Well, Brando the first.
Why are you treating this like it's some holier than thou thing? It's a trade show, people. That's what it is. I mean, it's the world's greatest trade show. I support it. I support the Academy. I think the programs are great. But those awards are saying, as Tommy Lee Jones, when we did Cops, said, yeah, those awards are worth money. It's like, I guarantee you, let me just turn on my computer. Let's see how many, just want to take a guess, how many lobbying things did I get from the Academy today just now? While we're on the air. Here we go. Oscars, Motherless Brooklyn, so-and-so. I guarantee I got 15 more that came today. They lobby for these awards.
Yeah.
It's no different than a political of any kind of thing. Mm-hmm. They are spending tens of millions of dollars because it's about business. Mm-hmm. It's about business, which is why in my, like I told Lon Gilbert, I have certain rules that I vote for with the Oscars, so they're worth money. These things are worth money.
Wait, what do you mean?
How I vote in the Oscars.
So what are your rules?
Okay, one, who's my friend? First and foremost.
Love it, yes.
First of all, you don't really believe that this award is affirmation of what the best is? Really? You want to go back and look at some of the best pictures of the last 10 years? You wouldn't watch them again. So there's no such thing as best. If you're nominated,
absolutely
right, you're in a good category.
Yeah.
However, this is a business.
Okay.
And I want my friends to do well in business. I want them to have hospitalization the rest of their career. I want them to have...
So you can watch 5 movies,
right,
and your friend, not the best performance.
No, I didn't say that. No. I did not say that.
Okay.
First of all, why are you putting the judgment on who the best performance is?
No,
My dad would say this when he'd watch the Oscars. He'd say, how can somebody be the best actor this year and he's not the best actor next year? Did he forget how to act? He goes, no. He goes, I'll tell you who the best part is. He says, if you let everybody play the same part, I'll tell you who the best performance is. I said, not even then, Dad. You can have different interpretations. So there was nothing saying to me about who the best performance is. Because a guy acts like a mentally ill guy? Ooh! I don't vote for mentally ill guys. Okay? Everybody does mentally ill. Or alcoholic. Or they have a challenge. How many times is comedy? I'm voting for Eddie Murphy. That's my best actor vote right there. I don't vote that way. And so all things being fairly equal, what do I care if another Brit gets a goddamn fucking Oscar? I want my friend getting the nomination. He's going to have hospitalization. Or an actress who has been in cattle calls her whole life, and now she'll be able to work the rest of her life. Getting an Oscar nomination does not mean you're going to be a star, but you'll get work the rest of your life. That's rule number 1. Who's my friend? Number 2, hard, fast rule. Actually, this is probably number 1. No kids. No kids under any circumstance. There's no circumstance. What's that?
Somebody just commented, won't vote for kids before you said that.
No kids. Under any circumstances. Under any circumstances. I think it is ridiculous. You know, when people say, well, it's a performance, it's not a Lifetime Achievement Award, I go, totally disagree. It is a Lifetime Achievement Award. I talked to my friend who writes obituaries for the New York Times. I said, what goes into your first line? He goes, their biggest accomplishment. I go, so when your obituary is written, the first line is written, the day you get that nomination or Oscar, that's a Lifetime Achievement Award. No matter what you do the rest of your life. That is a lifetime. So that's not true. And also with the kids, it's like Bill Parcells, the great coach of the New York Giants, used to say, can somebody win a couple of games before you put them in the Hall of Fame? How many times have we seen somebody, oh, what a great... I saw a lobby. I was at a party, a lobbying vote for that movie, The Beasts of the Southern Wild, or whatever it's called, that Bayou. And I sat next to the dinner table with the little girl who was the lead, 6 years old. And everybody said, what perform? She's playing her Game Boy. And I'm watching this, and I'm going, are you people really going to vote? You're going to take away a nomination from a woman who has done 10 years in craft, she probably had to bus tables, had to do all kinds of shit jobs, and take shit parts to do it. For this girl, for a little girl who the director says cry. And it's like under no circumstances. And you know what? So if I miss Jodie Foster the first time out, she'll grow up and become Jodie Foster. But I also have to worry about all these other little kids who you give a nomination, you never hear from them again, and they took it away. No kids. No circumstance. You could not find me a circumstance where I would vote for a kid. Or a first timer.
Ooh.
I won't vote for a first timer either.
Wow. Okay.
Don't do that either. Okay. I want to see a couple more. I want to see more. Until I give you this Lifetime Achievement Award, and I define this as a Lifetime Achievement Award, I want to see more. I want to see a second at-bat. You hit a home run the first time, fine. I'm not putting you in the Hall of Fame yet. That's the way you vote. Okay.
That's the way I vote. All right.
Yeah.
All right. And I heard also somebody was asking you on an interview if Fran Drescher ran for office, would you vote for her? And they said she didn't know the 3 branches of government, and you said loyalty is first. I would vote for her.
Loyalty, yeah. Loyalty's high up there.
Loyalty is, I like
Loyalty's
that.
Loyalty's high up there for me.
I like that.
I don't know, again, vote for her. I don't remember what I said here. I'll just say loyalty is very important.
Well, I mean, you're not going to make her the governor or anything. I mean, I would hope, Robert, but...
I don't know. How much worse could they be than Robert?
No, well, there you go. Okay, so that's your criteria for voting. All right. Now, is this something...
By the way, all the people I'm voting for are all worthy. It's not like I'm voting for some... I mean, if you're
nominated for
exactly,
an Oscar...
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and like I said, if you look back on movies 5 years ago and you say, how the hell did that movie beat that movie? How the hell did this movie beat this movie? It's like, are you serious? I mean, it's like, so it's all, you look in the past and say, they didn't win the award. So that's, you look at it.
But it's a lot of people like you voting their hearts and...
Why shouldn't they?
Yeah, I'm just saying, but...
Yeah, and there's something else too. They always, I think, let me see, up to about 2 years ago, there was not a woman, there was like 1 or 2 women over 35 that had won an Oscar in the last 20 years. Mm-hmm. All the parts go to whose turn is it this time? Mm-hmm. Is it Reese Witherspoon's turn? Is it Anne Hathaway's turn? Mm-hmm. Is it so-and-so's turn? Is it this one's turn? Is it that one? It's like, and then these critics and these reviewers, and, they all get caught up in the whole game. It's a game. Mm-hmm. And it's a game, and I support the game. I think it's great. I love it. But I mean, I look at it slightly differently. In a no less, all these people that are putting all these monies into these campaigns. Mm-hmm. There's movies I get campaigns for that, it's like there's no chance that it doesn't make a difference. Mm-hmm. That's in their contracts. And the studios are putting all these millions of dollars because they want $1 million coming back. Mm-hmm. I asked my friend who runs one of the independent one of the companies, how much is an Oscar nomination worth? Mm-hmm. What is a movie? And he would tell me $10 million for this thing, $15 million for this, $20 million for this. So it's all business. It's not show art. It's show business. Mm-hmm. So this, again, it doesn't negate the quality, but anytime I can get comedy in there, that's always been my thing with the Academy. Why isn't there best comedy? Why isn't there a category for comedy? You got categories for animated films, short subjects, live and animated. You got categories for everything, yet not comedy. It's a different animal. It's a different animal. And the late, great Tom, our senior moment, Tom Sherrick used to be the president of the Academy.
Tom Sherrick was my cousin.
Oh, was he? Yeah. Tom was great. He used to play golf with Tom. And Tom... I'd say Tom, and he goes, and Tom was a distribution guy.
But he was the president of the Academy.
Yeah, but he was a distribution guy. And even Harvey Weinstein, and Ron Howard, Harvey said, I'd love to, and Tom said, I'd love to have best comedy. I could market that. I could put, nominate for best comedy. I can do all that. And he goes, and I said, but we both know why the Academy won't do it.
Why?
Because the Golden Globes does it. And they'll never take anything from the Golden Globes.
Is that so?
Yes, they won't say that, but that's what it is.
Wow.
A good idea. I don't care where it comes from. But that's the reason. There's not a doubt in my mind. That's the reason.
Interesting. And comedies never win. Do comedies ever win?
No. Well, a couple of times. Annie Hall won, and Shakespeare in Love's a romantic comedy, but that's been about it in the last 150 years or whatever. Not many comedies. They don't, because you got to put them in a different category. Because if somebody's playing a mental patient, or or if they're playing an alcoholic or a challenge thing, it's like whatever it is, that's acting.
Yeah.
But if you're if you're doing a comedy, that's easy. And yet everybody knows comedy's much harder.
Dying is easy, comedy is hard. Do we have questions, Pete?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Let's see. Valari Blaze asks, what was it like working with Robin Williams?
Heaven. Fun. It's great. I mean, he was a great guy. He was a great human being. He was just the heart. He was there for you. He's a special guy. I miss him a lot. Thank you.
Would you would you do a sequel to Hollywood Nights?
In a heartbeat.
Sure. I would watch that. I'd go to the theater and watch that 10 times. Can you talk about Paper Doll? Rose would like to know.
Paper Doll, I think is what she's referring to. Is I was cast in a play.
Yes, because she mentioned it earlier.
I was cast in a play that was about Jacqueline Suzanne and her husband, Irving. What was his name? I don't say it's not Mansfield. Irving somebody, and it was me and Carter. What was her name? Dixie Carter. And we were doing it up in rehearsals at the Long Wharf Theater in New Haven, and. For, one of these things you talk about creative differences. The director, and I, it wasn't a great thing, but they never really. Anyway, they let me go on the play before the first preview, which was ridiculous. I mean, why don't you see what we got first? Then they let me go, and which was so I got fired from that. The play never went anywhere, and then also I think I was much younger than Dixie Carter. And who was terrific. And I wondered if that maybe didn't feel right. Could be, but the director and I, it didn't work out, so I left the production. You've
written plays, and yeah. And when I first met you, you had just done I Want to Be in Pictures.
That's right.
With Genevieve Joy for Gary Marshall.
Right.
Aww.
That was wonderful. We still keep in touch, Jenny and I. I enjoyed that. So that didn't go anywhere. Interestingly enough, I was doing Assume the Position as a show, and we did it at the Long Wharf Theater, and they invited me back. I go, you remember you five guys fired me the last time I was here?
Nice. More Pete?
That's it.
Okay.
A lot of viewers.
A lot, and also a lot of people talking. I've been seeing the comments. Wait, Benny Harrison asked a question at the beginning.
Benny Harrison?
Do you know Benny?
I had lunch with him a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, I've known Benny's rock and roll. I've been booking Benny since 1985.
Yeah, he just played out here in the Greek Theater.
That's right, with
Russell's.
With Felix. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Benny asked a question way back. Let me see if I can find it.
Benny played on my comedy special, the Robert Wuhl's World Tour.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so rock and roll merges with your life. Tell us about Glenn Frey and your friendship with Glenn, and how did that happen? How did you guys become friends?
We became friends. We were both playing golf at the Lexus Celebrity Golf Challenge in La Jolla, not La Jolla, at Palm Springs, in La Quinta. And we became friendly there. We hung out at the bar together, and we were both at the piano bar, and I love piano bars. So, and Glenn and I started, just talking and stuff, and we became friendly. And then I had him on Arliss, and we became friendlier. And then we just became pretty good friends. And then he was in New York, and I was in New York, and we started hanging out much more together. And then this project came along, which was we talked about doing. He talked about doing a theatrical musical version of Hotel California. So. So I go to, so I try to help him with it, and it's unfortunate because Glenn died. We were workshopping it at the University of Michigan. Great people there, great program, just great. But I tell you, Madonna's daughter played the witchy woman.
So fabulous.
Yeah, it was wonderful, great experience. But Glenn
what year was that?
What do you got? 3 years ago? When did he?
Okay.
And I miss my friend. We laughed, boy, we laugh. I miss laughing with Glenn. I wish laughing with Glenn. And we got to travel with the Eagles, so that was kind of fun.
So,
a couple of days.
could that get resurrected?
I'm no longer involved in it, so I'm just not. It's not my project, and it's their project.
Oh, it's Neil's project.
Oh well, yeah, yeah.
Oh, but you still are.
I have nothing to do.
You have nothing to do with it. Okay. So what do you have to do with? So ahead of you, if you had your druthers, what speaks to you now?
I'm always trying to get to movies made, scripts, but I'm actually working on a baseball book, which I like a lot. My love of baseball is really so interviewing people, a lot of good people about the game within the game, which I'm really into, and about. I ask every manager I meet how much of your job takes place between the lines once a game starts, and invariably they come back and say 15%, 20%. So my book is about the other 80%. What goes on with the other stuff? What goes on the other stuff, which is fun, So,
So writing a book.
Yeah.
You're writing a book.
Yeah, taking my hand at it.
I love it, and also still writing screenplays and.
Yeah, not as much though. I'm just I'm becoming. I'm actually doing something with the UCB, the Uptight Citizens Brigade, at the end of the month in New York. I'm really enjoying being an audience too. I like being in the audience a little bit. I don't, I've done well enough that I can say no to anything.
You still doing stand-up at all?
Not much, but occasionally I'll host an event or something like that, and I enjoy it. I have good, haunted events, and and I do enjoy it. I'd like to do another, assume the position. I got all the material ready to go, so that I enjoy because that's fun. That's fun. But as far as just, and of course you hit a certain age, and the parts just aren't there as much unless you create them yourself, which I usually do. But I just try to have a good time. I'm enjoying my life a lot.
That's wonderful. That's the best thing.
Yeah.
And that's the
I
luxury
travel
you
a
get
lot.
for. Do you?
Yeah.
For pleasure.
Oh yeah.
What's one of your favorite places to go?
Well, Paris.
Ooh.
I love Paris. I love Italy. I love Paris. I had a birthday party in Paris. I brought about 10, 12 people. It was great.
Hi. Well, Robert, this has been so fun. I want to say hi to Pete. Pete, come out. Come say hello. Pete George is the rock and roll comedian, in case you don't know. Pete plays guitar, and that's part of his act.
Half my show, yep.
So where are you going to be, Pete?
I am at the Grand Hotel in Las Vegas week after next. 5 shows.
Wow.
5 nights, and then all of December I am doing a tour of Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. Woo! And then back here, New Year's Eve, 2 shows at the Ventura Harbor Comedy Club.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing this, Pete.
This was awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. Loved it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for
You're welcome.
doing this.
You're welcome.
It's been such a treat, and we have to eat.
Yeah,
We have to. But I mean, aside from now, we have to go eat someplace wonderful.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll go with Drew, and we'll go
Sure.
eat
It's
someplace wonderful.
always good to go with Drew to go eat.
Always good to go with Drew. Thank you so much, Robert.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And we'll see you next week. Terrence Blanchard, who wasn't with us last week, will be with us next week. And Terrence wrote the score for Harriet, the movie that just came out, but he also did Black Klansman, which he's done like all the Spike Lee films. He's a brilliant, and he's a Trump player. He's brilliant.
Yeah.
So we'll be back with Terrence next week. Thank you so much, Pete. We'll see you next time. Thank you.